Angus Reid, you're like a legend, CFL legend.
I don't know about that. It
It
depends who you ask. Depends who you ask.
Well, I don't know. From all the stories that I've heard, you played what, 13 seasons in the
Yes.
CFL and how many Grey Cups?
Won two Grey Cups. I played in
Mhm.
three. So it's we lost in the first one I was in, and when you're in a career like that, you never know if you'll get back. So that was, but
Yeah.
then we won it in '06, and in 2011, which was the real special one because it was in Vancouver, where we you know we
Right.
we won it at home in front of everybody. So yeah, really really fortunate to play that long and also have those championships. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, that is quite the career for sure. Especially in a sport I find like that's it's so high contact, right? Many players don't actually get to play that many
Yeah,
seasons.
it's probably the worst sport for attrition rate because you have the most amount of people, and you're right, the physicality of the sport just doesn't lend itself to longevity. And another part that most people don't realize about football at the professional level, it's one of the only sports that doesn't really have guaranteed contracts for that very reason, because the
Okay.
turnover is so high, you really are playing week to week. Because if
Yeah.
you get hurt, they can contractually move on. And so it's a tough sport it's one I wouldn't suggest trying to make a living at, even if you're really good at it, because I think, even a long career, which mine was, it's 13 years and you're pretty beat up. But listen, it's what
Yeah.
I wanted to do. I loved every
Yeah.
second. I have memories and relationships built that I don't know if I could have, I don't know how I could have ever done doing anything else.
Yeah, yeah, totally, right. That was your path and your journey. And it sounds like now that it is over, you really are giving back to like the next generation of young people and youth. And like maybe tell us a little bit about what you're doing now, and then we'll dive into
Well,
all the
I think
things.
first and foremost, I'm a husband and a father. So I have three young boys of my own, and so that's my number one job is doing
Yeah.
everything we can to raise them the best that I know how. And
Hmm.
that's, there is no right answer for everyone. I think that's learning who your children are and supporting their growth. But on the public side, I guess I do what I do publicly on speaking, but I coach high school football. So again, there's no magic in football, but it's the sport that I know, and I have credibility there, and I can teach it. So I think it's a really good outlet for me to help our youth in that teenage range
Hmm.
to, you know, sure, become better football players. But what I'm really trying to do is help them navigate those tough years where there's uncertainty, there's fear, there's insecurity about themselves, even, and try to let them know that they can really become anything they want to through work and commitment and learning and all the things that we try to stress. And I just do it through football because it's what I know.
Yeah, yeah, it's the vehicle. It's same with me
Yeah.
with what I do, working with youth athletes. Sport is the vehicle to teach these amazing life skills that go so far beyond the sport that, and the kids are at that age, coaches step into a really cool role where parents kind of step back in the kid's mind and coaches get to step forward. So being someone who understands all that and is able to hand tools and really also was there and can acknowledge that and, that's a huge piece.
Yeah, it's a neat, it is neat. I remind myself of the fact that I remind myself that as a coach, particularly because I played, a lot
Mhm.
of the kids look up to me. So they listen. They
Yeah.
listen because they think I can help them become a better player. But
Yeah.
once they're listening, you have their attention.
Yeah.
And now you have the ability to really message something that is far greater than sports. And I'm trying to get better at this, but I know the great teachers teach something much bigger than what they're teaching in the moment. And I try my best to
Mhm.
realize for 2 hours a day, they don't have a cell phone in their hand, they don't have any screen in front of them, and they're actually listening to what an adult says. Like that's pretty rare.
Yeah.
And so we do what we can, right? To try to
Mhm.
teach them life, to try to get them prepared for that bigger game. That's going to
Yeah.
be whenever their days are done playing sports. And listen, if one of these young guys wants to go on and play pro, I'll do everything I can to help them. But we all know that's not the real goal. It's just
Yeah.
another part of the journey that they want to explore to further along their own pursuits and learn more about who they are.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And you're right. Like there is such a small number of athletes who actually go, quote unquote, the distance, whatever that is, right? Get to the big leagues, let's say.
Yeah,
And so, but you did.
yeah.
What are maybe like two or three key components that you believe helped you be able to get to where you did with your sport career?
Well, let's get this on the table right away. And I don't like leaning on this, but there is so much to do with timing and there's
Yeah.
luck.
Yeah.
There is those are real factors.
Yeah.
And you don't want to outsource all your work to that, but that's part of the equation because you can do everything right and it not work out for variables beyond your control.
Yeah.
So that's why, again, you should stay humble and forever grateful because everything you do is what you can control. Then those other things beyond your control have to line up. And so, for me, what you can control, and this is what I really stress, is I made the decision that's what I want to do. And honestly, I think that's number one with parents, with coaches. What do they want to do? Not what you want them to do or what they could do because they're talented. And I think a lot of times we forget to give our youth that, not that option, but that reality. What do you want to do? Because
Yeah.
I can tell you, you're good enough to go play college football or you could be this. But a lot of kids, they're just doing what they're told or what they told they can make money or become famous at. And you get to a point where they didn't want to do that. And I know life's going to be really hard. Pursuing sports is incredibly hard. So first and foremost, is this what you wanted to do, want to do? And for me, it is what I wanted to pursue. So it was
Hmm.
my choice. It wasn't forced on me or demanded of me. I said, this is what I want to do. So I'm going to do everything I can now to maximize my probabilities of this. And
Yeah.
so, you do all the stuff everyone else does. You get coaches, you train hard, you do everything you can control. But I think the biggest factor is when I was 16, 17, looking back, is who I decided to surround myself with. Peer
Yeah.
wise, I had good coaches, but those good coaches were available to most people. And I soaked them up like a sponge and I actually listened to them and I actually applied the things. But I chose friends that I kind of had a multitude of friends, but I had basically two classifications of friends when I look back on it. Friends that I like to hang out with that were really good people, that I wanted to be more like as a person. They had good
Mm.
characteristics. They supported me. We could laugh together. We weren't judgmental of each other negatively. We were very supportive. But then I chose what I classify when I talk to the youth today as my super friends. They were ones that I went out of my way to seek. They were about my age. The two ones that really moved my life were a year older than me, so just ahead of me.
Yeah.
And they were passionately pursuing what I wanted to pursue, and they were a little bit ahead of me in the process. And they were doers, and they worked harder than anybody. They watched what they ate. They stayed home and read books and watched videos on the sport. And so I said, I want to be more like these people. So I
Yeah.
actually went out of my way to become friends with them. And I
Hmm.
decided to surround myself with people doing what I wanted to do. So you start behaving like that. And I
Yes.
think it's incredibly powerful who you surround yourself with. And, when I talk to teenagers, when you're 16, 17, that's now your choice. You're 4, 5, 6 years old. You're around who you're around. You're at school. But when you're 16, 17, you are choosing now who
Yeah.
you're spending your free time
Mhm.
with. And I think it makes, I think what it's the old saying they say, you end up being the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, or something like that.
Yeah.
But that is the truth. I mean, you become your surroundings. And so as a teenager, you can't always control your home. You can't
Hmm.
always control your parents and your family. You can't always control the food that's available to you. You just can't.
Yeah.
But you can control the peers that you speak to, that you listen to, that you spend time with. And I think that does a more than anything in terms of shaping you. Are these people helping you become closer to your goals? And the easiest way to do that, I think, is to find people that are on that journey and they're maybe a
Hmm.
little ahead of you and maybe they're doing what you want to do. Guess what? You spend time with them, you're going to start doing that and you'll do it at a level past what you're able to. And I think the biggest thing I did outside of, I had good coaches, great parents. I have all that stuff, but I spent every free moment with peers that were doing what I wanted to do. And so
Yeah.
I started doing it with them, at them. And you build memories and friendships that are ridiculous, but you become a doer. And that's so much bigger than just a wisher or a
Yes.
wanter.
Yes. Oh, there were so many good things in there. It's so true. And I remember my parents telling me that too, right? Like when you're a kid, you're like, you are who you hang out with, and you just kind of like roll your eyes and you're like, oh my gosh. And then for some of us, there is that aha moment. Oh, they're actually right, even though we don't want to admit that most of the time, right? And the control piece came in there many times with what you said. What is within your control? What is not in your control? So you said, choosing your friends is within your control. What are a couple other things that are within youth athletes' control that can help them become like a resilient, stronger human and at sport?
Well, today's world, what they're consuming digitally. I mean, in
Mm,
our world, it was what we watched on TV or the
yeah.
magazines we read, which it's the exact same thing, but it's much more abundant now and it's much far reaching,
Yeah.
far farther reaching. So what they're looking at on the screen, which is probably their phone, the social medias that they're on, and not just what they're on, who are they following?
Yes.
Who are they giving their attention to, which becomes what they consume, which has become how they see the world. You're
Hmm.
controlling that. So you can say all this stuff is out there and it's, it's poisoning our youth. By the time you're 15, 16, 17, that's a choice.
Yeah.
Nobody's forcing you to have to look at these things. And I think people, again, like you said, with who you surround yourself with, we don't think about it. I mean, that's the biggest diet that you are going to consume that becomes you is the information you're taking in. And I'm
Yeah.
not going to sit here and say, don't do it, it's bad. Choose stuff that is supporting of your goals and inspiring and making you want to do better and strive instead of, making you feel worse or just becoming addicted to what they want you to watch and becoming a consumer of their information. I think it's massive. You start auditing, uh, audit. What am I
Yeah.
consuming all day? What do I want to become? That's why everything starts with what do you actually want? And not a lot of youth, not a lot of adults know. They know what they
Yes.
don't want, or I don't like this, or I wish I had this. But what do you actually want? And once you
Hmm.
actually make that decision, and look, you can change that, but at any moment, you have to have what you're pursuing. So you look at all your actions. Is this supporting that or not? Then why are you doing it? Is these people I'm surrounding myself with, are they supporting this or not? But if you don't actually have a decision of what you want, then it just makes you feel good. You follow whatever makes you feel good. And you never
Hmm.
actually get anywhere. And you keep, people call it dopamine or whatever, but you just chase feeling.
Yes.
And you look at high agency people and you're never too young at the teenagers start becoming one. Everything is made with reason and purpose. And I'm a big believer of this. Your actions should
Hmm.
have reason and purpose, and they can't have reason and purpose unless you know where you're going.
Yeah.
Because how do you know if this is supporting that? So look, I think that's a big one. I know people talk about getting enough sleep at night and of course, but that's not always in a teenager's control. It isn't always. You don't know how far they have to go to school or they might have to work a pizza
Yeah.
delivery job at night. I don't know, right? Every situation requires and demands different realities of each youth. I don't know what's going on in the home and I can't say you should be in bed at this night. I don't know what's going on. But everyone in their free moments is looking at something and
Hmm.
you choosing that. And I think that is a massive, maybe more so in today than the friends you hang out with, because people have relationships online more than ever now. And
Yes.
you can't change reality, but you can work with it and say, is what you're doing with that time supportive of where you have decided to go or
Yeah.
become? And have you even thought about that?
Yeah, I appreciate that you brought that up. We have an exercise actually at Forged Youth with the athletes that we work with. And when I started doing this, I was trying to really minimize the phone altogether, right? Like I have a teenage daughter. She doesn't have a phone. We got a house phone. She can call her friends, so she's not on social media, right? But that's within my control and all that. For the youth athletes that I work with, they all have cell phones. And so we do the audit exercise, exactly what you said. So every week I get them to go through who they are following and remove 5 accounts that are not in alignment with what their goals are. And then to follow 5 accounts that are. Because then all of a sudden that's changing that algorithm and they're starting to get people like you, like me, like, all of these people who are giving them information that is positive and pushing them towards their goals and supporting that in bite-sized pieces rather than, body image and this and that and all the other things.
I
Yeah.
think it's great. Again, I think it's naive for us to always just assume everyone just shouldn't do certain things. If they're
Yeah.
going to do it, and
Yeah.
it's not all negative. Look, I'm able to coach our offensive linemen, and we have our WhatsApp group, or even on Instagram, we have our group, and I'm able to coach them while I'm in
Yeah.
airports or speaking events all over North America because we have technology at our ability to send a video and discuss it, and I can talk to 30 people from a different time zone, and we can do this. It's incredible. It's what you
Hmm.
do with it, right? So, like most things if you fear the negative of something when there's a positive, just getting rid of it, you lose the positive. So
Hmm.
meeting them where they're at and looking at what they're doing and then now challenging them going, are we using this to its best ability to support your goals? And
Yeah.
I think honestly, with youth is no different than with adults. Having those hard conversations. Adults don't want to have them either. We don't want to
Yeah.
talk about that because then I'm gonna have to cut out what's fun, but is it supporting where you want to go?
Yeah.
And then don't complain why you're not getting anywhere because
Yeah.
your actions all compound one way or the other. They
Hmm.
always are. And I think that's another message for our youth, no different than adults. There's no magic life hack. You're not going to get there tomorrow because you did something today. It takes time. But
Hmm.
compounding is a real thing. and it happens in both directions. And so you're always moving towards something. And so are we moving towards the person we want to become, or are we moving away from that? We're always in a direction. So I think that's another thing too, because frustration hits and they're like,
Yeah.
I'm not getting anywhere. Well, you probably are, and you don't realize it because you expect leaps when we crawl forward, or maybe you're not because you're not really doing the things that matter. So,
Hmm.
like you said, you audit. Like I love that you do that. You constantly assessing,
Yeah.
what am I actually doing?
Yeah.
And don't be so hard on yourself, but also don't lie to yourself.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, that honest conversation with yourself. And it's interesting. I had she's a world championship boxer. She's from Serbia. And she came on, and her message was that same thing, that patience, teaching youth that it is about patience. It is a long game to get to that goal,
Yeah,
and you're not going to see things overnight. It took her like 21 years to win the world title that she was going for. 21 years,
it's
like that is
crazy.
so
Yeah.
long, but she showed up every single
Yeah.
day and casted votes for who she wanted to be with those actions, right? And that's
And I think that's another part is building that community because
yeah,
if you're going along with other people, then it's a long journey for all of us. So you don't feel like you're failing. And
yeah,
there's also the reality some people will jump forward at different time periods. So it's like, well,
yeah.
they're getting ahead now, but wait for tomorrow. Like everyone gets ahead and there's spurts and leaps and then grinds and all those
Hmm.
things. But I think honestly, moving back to the front end is deciding what you want to do and become or get accomplished and
Yeah.
letting people know. I think so many people are so scared of saying what they really want to do because they're fear of getting laughed at or humiliated. And I say,
Mm.
how can someone be supportive if they don't know what to support? How
Yeah.
can someone be your friend if they have no idea what you want in life? And then we're just lying to each other. And that's
Hmm.
another problem with, the fear of insecurity of like, I'm too scared to even say what I'm going to do. Well, then you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
But if we tell people, you find out who your friends are, and they can now, the best friends in the world I find say, how can I be of best support to you? I
Yeah.
want to help you. Now, thank you for telling me. And they can check in and now they support you. But if you don't tell people what you really want to do, how can they be how can they be a real friend when you need them to? And I think that's, more conversations. And I know people text more than they talk. And listen, there's so much value in verbal communication, but
Yeah.
listen, use what you're going to use.
Yeah.
Texting is better than zero talking. Talking is better than texting. In person is better than talking on the phone. But listen, all of it's better than nothing. And so the
Yeah.
more times we can keep communication, the less you talk to yourself negatively and you get out of your own head and make up stories and you make up answers to questions that you've told yourself without, and then you get away from reality. Get it out of your head. Speak to
Mhm.
people. They can challenge that made up assumption you just said to yourself that it's not real. And you don't have to feel alone. Even if at the end of the day, like I'm sure the boxer was, that journey does become by yourself to go in the ring,
Yeah.
but you don't have to take that whole journey by yourself.
Yeah.
Eventually, yes, you step in and you gotta become that person, but you don't have to be alone through all of this, and you shouldn't be.
Hmm. Yeah, it's all about community, right?
I agree.
It takes a village. It takes a village to do everything. And it used to be such a normal thing that
Yes.
we had a community, a group of people around us, our neighbors, our family, our extended family, like all these things. And only in the last little bit have we become so individualistic. And so
Yeah.
being able to be like, take initiative, like you said, and go out of your way to create that community that you need in order to reach the goals that you have.
And I think us as adults need to do a better job at making that
Mm.
easier because it's easy when that's normal for you. So you run into families, and we do our best as our family to make in-person communication normal.
Yep.
So it's not weird. Like it's not awkward. There's no stress of talking. We talk every night at dinner. We have little games we play to review their day. So it's not weird. So
Yep.
we don't when it's time to talk about something difficult, it's not awkward to have a conversation. A lot of youth aren't doing that anymore because everyone goes home and they put their head down on their devices and whatever. So as coaches, I learned this when I first started coaching football full time. It was just coming out of COVID. And it was really strange to me that the kids weren't comfortable speaking in close quarters to each other. And there was COVID there too. So they'd been away and
Yep.
they were 13, 14. And in football, we have a huddle. And so literally 11 people all come in like a bunch of penguins and you solve a problem in close quarters in a stressful time allotted area of
Yeah.
like 30 seconds. It's hard at the best of times. But you saw people didn't want to have eye contact and they just weren't comfortable. And so I realized it doesn't matter what information I'm sharing. It's we have to get to the place where we're comfortable to talking
Hmm.
again. And we all know this. The people that have grown up enjoying conversation, when they actually get the other side, they love it again. But if they don't get there, it's always scary. And if you can't communicate in person, look, you can still get things done, but you're
Hmm.
missing something that makes the whole thing. I don't know if I want to use the word easier, but you're missing a massive tool in our human biology to be able to work with each other. So us
Yeah.
as coaches and adults, I think we need to do everything to foster not more information for the kids, but more proper sharing of the human way of how can we make it easier for kids to get to know each other. I
Hmm.
don't like to use the word icebreakers, but just like, do kids even know anything about each other so they feel comfortable talking with each other? And once you get there, you can build a relationship, a real one. And I think
Hmm.
that's what we got to do as coaches through sport is, in the confines of teaching and coaching, creating environments where they actually learn to be human with each other again and
Yeah.
talk and share and solve problems and be comfortable being close.
Yeah, and that brings up to, in my mind, the whole concept of kids who are trying to fit in and kids who feel like they belong because they're such different pieces. And a
Yeah.
sports team is really a beautiful place for youth to belong and not feel like they have to do something and be something and change something about themselves and all that. They know that their team has their back, and it might not mean that they're all hanging out in the lunchroom together or they don't have to talk all the time after school and all that kind of stuff. But when that team is together, you belong with that team. They're your brothers or your sisters or whatever that is. And that comes down to communication and trust and all those little moments that we need in order to succeed in our sport, but also outside of sport as we go into life.
And coaches, I think our job is to create that environment
Hmm.
because to just expect youth to be that mature to make sure new people understand that, it's great if they are, but
Yeah.
they're doing what's trickled down from the top. So if
Hmm.
we're judging players and pitting A versus B and offense versus defense, and if you don't fit in and you got to help us win in games, and look, it's one thing to compete and practice, but it all has to be under this higher gaze that we're all in this together. And you
Hmm.
can't start dividing people in teams versus the winners and the losers on drills because, that might be if you don't have anything else, someone thinks I'm cool or I'm not cool because I'm on the winning squad or the losing squad of this drill. And we have to be very careful, like you said, to let kids know we're all part of this. And this is
Hmm.
all just to help each other get better. We're supportive of each other. And our messaging becomes their messaging.
Hmm.
Our words become their words.
100%.
Okay. We judge, they judge. And so we have to be very careful with our body language and our words that we use when
Hmm.
things happen or before they happen, because that's what they will also do. And so we
Yeah.
set the tone right away. And I've, been told this many times, we're thermostats, right? We set the temperature. They'll
Hmm.
adapt. They become whatever temperature we set. It's always going to be on us as coaches and leaders to to be what they will become. They will act like we act, especially if they look up to us, especially if they think that we are an authority figure. They're always looking for cues, whether they're doing it consciously or subconsciously. They'll behave as we behave. So
Yeah.
again, like you said, we got to honor ourselves as
Yeah.
coaches. Like, are we using language we want them to use?
Hmm.
Are we coaching the way we'd feel comfortable someone coaching us?
Yeah.
Remember being 15.
Yeah.
Remember having an adult speak to you and the impact it's having.
Yeah. Yeah. There's actually when I was 14, I played Team BC volleyball and my coach said to me, your perception is your reality. And at 14 years old, I honestly had no idea what that
No,
meant, but it sounded so cool and it made me feel something. And that stuck with me for the rest of my life. And as I got older, I started to realize what it meant and like all it, and it was like one practice. He probably didn't even think about it. Actually, I found him like last year and I wrote him in, he's a principal of a school in Kelowna now or whatever. And I wrote him an email and said, "Hey, this is who I am. This was so long ago. You said this to me." And it literally helped like change my life and and he was just like blown away by that.
good for you for telling them. Good for
Yeah,
you for
because there's
reminding
so
them.
many moments. There's so many
Yeah,
moments where us as, adults aren't even thinking that kids are absorbing things.
yeah.
And they are, they're
Oh
sponges.
yeah. Oh yeah. They're watching everything. And you're right,
Yeah.
they're absorbing everything. And so it's
Yeah.
not always your words. It's your body language reaction when they thought they lost. And if you give a negative one on that, it compounds them that they become a
Yeah.
loser. And we have to be very, very careful. And it's that fine line, right, between you're not trying to make life easier for them, but you're trying to allow them to be free to bring their best and
Yes.
not operate from a level of fear of negative judgment. And
Hmm.
I think the ultimate place I can get to as a coach is when they want to be coached by me.
Yes.
Most times are they're scared because they take it as negative because they're so scared. They don't want to be criticized. They don't want to fail. So every coaching seems like a negative critique.
Hmm.
And when you get a player that loves to be coached by you, they realize they're not in a position of fear anymore. They're not scared of you. They're excited because you're going to help them become better. And that has to be laid beforehand about the relationships you build with them, the comfort level. And
Yeah.
what is that old saying they say, like, nobody cares how much you know till they know how much you care. Or the
Yeah.
great line I've heard from people is, you can't teach them before you've reached them. You have to
Oh,
reach them
yeah.
before you teach them. And so once you really reach them and they believe you are actually here for me,
Hmm.
then they want to be coached by you because they know everything that's coming from you is to help them, not to tell them they're no good or they're screwing things up and that's again, I'm not coaching so I can win football games. I'm
Yeah.
coaching to try to help kids. So let's be very aware and mindful. Are we actually helping them?
Yes, 100%. That's one of the reasons why I love my job too. And it's so true. You've got to build that rapport so that the teenager, the youth athlete knows that you're in their corner. You're not
Yes.
there because of their mom. You're not there going to tell their parents things. You're not, teacher, whatever. You are there for them in their corner solely. And as soon as they figure that out, all of a sudden, it's just like you just see them bloom.
Yeah.
And
And
it's just
and
the
they
most
drop their
beautiful
fear.
thing.
Yeah, and I think they're able to bring their best now because they drop
Yes.
that insecurity. And
Yeah.
also, like, it's not that you're not there for their parents. They don't exist for you. That's the worst. Like, I'm not here to use you so I can win. And they
Yeah.
know that right away if you're yelling at them for messing up because
Yeah.
they feel like they're messing your game up. I'm
Hmm.
going to lose my championship as a coach. Don't you screw up. And that now you're using players and they know it. I
Yeah.
tell players all the time, your job is to use me. I'm
Yeah.
not here to use you. I'm here so you can use me. I'm the
Yeah.
resource. I want to help you. You're not trying to help me. I mean, listen, they help me become a better person, but from
Yeah.
viewpoints, use me. I don't ever want to be using you guys. It's not about, you're not a piece for me to use from my puzzle.
Yeah.
I'm a coach. Use me as much as you can to better what you can become. That's it.
Hmm.
And you're right, that has to be laid out early. And that's why early in the relationship, you have to be extremely aware.
Yeah.
You don't want to be manipulative and fake things. You got to be you, but you got to be aware that they don't trust you yet. And why should they?
Yeah.
They've probably had other adults just tell them they're worthless or use them or who knows. You don't know. You don't know where they're
Yeah.
coming from. So be very careful not to assume and don't assume every kid's the same because they're not. So there is no cookie cutter formula to building rapport. There is no A plus B equals C in every kid. Some kids are already on C, some kids are on B, and some kids need a hug and some kids need a kick in the butt. And that's just the truth.
Yeah.
And so you have to really learn who they are first and not just
Hmm.
assume you know what they need. Because I've never
Yeah.
met you before, but this is what kids need. Don't generalize because then
Yeah.
you're throwing them in a bucket because now they're not John or they're not Timothy. They're just a kid. And that's disrespectful
It
to
is.
them.
Yeah.
And they know it. So, I think it's really hard for a coach because coaching today is a lot more than knowing your sport.
Hmm.
There's a lot of just caring enough about and kids to treat them as individuals. And the only way to do that is to actually get to know them.
Yeah.
Find out about them. What do they like? What don't they like? Who are they? And now how can I support that? And that is hard work, but the great ones know
Hmm.
when you get there, coaching them is so good, dude. And you buy yourself margin for error too, because none of us are going to be perfect as coaches. We don't
Yeah.
know everything. We make mistakes, but as long as they know that you care about them, it's
Yeah.
okay. But if you're some authoritative know-it-all, every mistake they're gonna roast you for that. Like, I'm not
Mhm.
perfect, so I don't try to be. I just want to care about you. And now you have a relationship, and I let them know we're in this together. There's going to be
Yeah.
problems. I don't have all the answers. But together, we're going to dive in and do what we can to figure out solutions. And they're not always going to work. And we're going to just keep chopping wood at it. And that's fun. Like, we're in these
Hmm.
together. It's a journey that I'm just honored to be here to help you with.
How does this reflect like your own career and the coach that you had?
So I was fortunate. And for two ways, I had a great coach. I wrote a book about him, man. Thank you, coach. I had the same coach for 11 years, which anyone in sports, that's pretty rare, especially sport like football, which is a very transactional sport.
Yeah.
Greatest coach I ever had. Most demanding coach I've ever been around, but he cared about us so much. I mean, he would write each of us letters each week. This is pro sports, and they were personal letters, reminding us how much he cared, and observations that he saw us do during the week at practice that made us special and different, personalized. And he did all the little things that you knew he really cared about you. And then he would push
Mm-hmm.
you so hard, but you knew it was coming from a point he cared that much that he was going to leave no stone unturned to help you maximize who you could be. And
Mm-hmm.
I'd come from the opposite coaching just before him, where it was, you just exist as a name and a number on a board, and only thing highlighted were negatives, and everything was letting you know what you weren't doing well. And so you're never good enough, and they didn't care about you. And so I've seen both sides of the equation. And that's uh, when I finished, I realized that's the kind of coach I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and look, I do what I can to know everything I can to technically coach a sport, but I thought I changed my life. Like he impacted me to actually want to become the best I could be, not just want to avoid getting yelled at, and not just
Mm-hmm.
do enough so I don't get cut, or, you don't want to hear from coaches because it's always gonna be negative. I couldn't wait to hear from him because I knew whether it was positive or constructive criticism on the other hand, or it was there to help me improve. And so
Mm-hmm.
you just couldn't wait, because if he wasn't speaking to me, I wasn't getting better. And I loved it. Like, I looked forward to communication. Before, you didn't want to hear from the coach because it was just going to be negative.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things he kind of reminded me, and I try to do this a lot, and it kind of, in football, there's a lot of yelling and screaming in practice because that's just what football coaches do. And because the play goes and it stops, there's always you can overcoach. It's an easy sport to overcoach because you run a play,
Yeah.
then there's 30-second breaks. They all jump in and coach, and kids just, it's too much. And historically, they'd only get super emotional and yell and scream when something bad happened. What are we doing? And Coach Dan was incredible. Like, you run a play, and he'd go ballistic. And I'm like, oh boy. And he'd come in and he would get so fired up to tell you what you did outstanding and what exactly you did. And
Hmm.
that's not a football thing. Like, usually that's just expected. And you'd realize he couldn't wait to see you do well. And he wanted to let you know, in case you missed it, what you did. And I remember thinking, going, I want to do more of that now.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you're going to coach when it's wrong, but you're also going to coach when it's right. And you're not just going to yell when it's bad. You're going to yell when it's great. And you're going to yell louder. And, the norm in coaching is to yell and scream when it's negative, and I don't know. I don't know. Not everybody's like that, but
Yeah.
I want football to be a super enjoyable time for these kids, and I
Yeah.
don't think they should hate practice because no
Yeah.
one's getting paid here. This is voluntary. They're
Yeah.
teenagers. There's a lot more enjoyable things they could be doing at their time than getting yelled at by adults for two
Yeah.
hours. I don't know why you'd want to do it given today's options. How's that fun? I, to me, if I'm not here challenge you to get better in a supportive way that you like, why would you show up?
Yeah. Yeah. So if there is, and I know there's lots of kids out there who do have coaches that are like what you're talking about, what is something, because that's out of their control. You can't
Yeah,
control if that's the coach that you got and all that, and they do want to stick around. What's a skill or two that is going to help them not attach them that to themselves, like the negativity, and have it
yeah,
drag them
that's
down? How
tough.
can they not do that?
That's tough. I think depending on their age group,
Yeah.
if you're 10 or 11, 12, it's hard to get into their heads that way. But if they're a little bit older, maybe they have some years of having a different coach, so they have perspective that this is not you, this is them.
Hmm.
Like, this is not about you. Because the worst thing you can do is internalize that and think that,
Yeah.
this is if you can teach 16-year-old, that's them. And listen, that's who they are. So that's hard too. But um, if they're doing it to everybody, that's the way they are. It's sad to hear this, but that's some of the best bonding you'll ever have from players, because you can turn to each other realizing
Yeah.
this person's not a nice person.
Yeah.
And I think if you can externalize it that way, then you don't have to take it personally,
Yeah.
ideally. And if everyone's happy. So maybe with each other, you can say, look, we bond on that, realizing this is not and ideally you've had a different experience. So when you realize that's an anomaly because that's them.
Yeah.
It breaks my heart if that's just normal for you. If that's every coaching experience you've ever had, because why would you play sports then? But if
Yeah.
it's an anomaly and this is bad, then, if you're on the team for a year, and you have no control to get out of it, I think your best tactic is to do your best to self-evaluate yourself if you're old enough to realize I'm playing well. and you
Yeah.
talk to peers going, look, this person's not good. Like whatever you want to have to realize you bond with each other deeper with people that are more
Yeah.
positive,
Yeah.
and you realize that's them, not us, because you don't want that to let that affect you thinking, that's who you've become. No,
Hmm.
this is not a good. I mean, look, talk to your parents, talk to whoever, but
Yeah.
I hate to say it, sometimes you can't do anything about it, right? So I think
Yeah.
internally, don't, the easiest thing to say is to not let it affect you, but the easiest way to do that is to constantly communicate with your peers that are having the same struggles to realize that's all of us. So
Yeah.
we're not the problem here. And if you
Yes.
keep talking and talking, you get it out of your head. You don't sit at
Hmm.
home and think these things. The worst thing you can do is think negative thoughts. If you verbalize them, you get them out. And if you
Yeah.
verbalize other people, we can look at them instead of
Hmm.
feeling them again and again and compounding and then adding your own story on top of someone else's story that they threw at you. And so I think that can become a really good thing when you can't do anything else. And I
Yeah.
breaks my heart. I think we need more coaching conferences on not X's and O's,
Yeah.
on communication, on connecting, on caring. I think there needs to be a lot more work on coaching 001 that comes before coaching 101. Do
Yes.
you know how to build relationships with people? Do you
Yeah.
have any human relationship skills? I don't care what you know. And if you're the smartest guy in the world or person in the world that but can't communicate with people, become a consultant to other coaches because don't be around athletes. I think we
Yeah.
need to do a lot more vetting, not of your
Hmm.
technical knowledge.
Yeah.
Do you have human relation skills? Are you someone I'd want in front of my child?
Yeah.
Forget it. So for kids themselves, they'll listen. If
Yeah.
there's nothing you can do about it, verbalize with people that are having the same troubles to realize it's not you, it's
Yeah.
them. And that might ease the burden a little bit from it magnifying and beating yourself down.
Yeah. I appreciated how you mentioned the story that we end up telling ourselves too on top of that, because stories are so vital in that internal dialogue that goes on. How, like for you as a football player, what was that internal dialogue like in your head as you were competing in some of the, biggest games?
Terrible. Like it's hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard to control your own voice.
Mm.
And you I know some people that I've gotten better, and my wife and kids still think I'm crazy because I literally talk to myself during the day now.
Hmm.
I will, and it comes out verbally to myself at a low pitch. And like, what are you saying?
Yeah.
I talk myself through things to override the internal voice, and
Yeah.
it sounds kind of nuts, but I'm more intentional now of literally talking, not just blowing smoke up, not just making up stories, literally just talking through the actions, what I'm doing. So I keep my focus on what I'm doing instead of letting it wander about, what happened 5 minutes ago, which is irrelevant to what I'm doing. I'm
Right.
trying to stay focused on the action. I talk myself through, where my hands got to go. And it sounds crazy, but it's better than just letting it drift to things that have happened before, which are irrelevant, or things
Yeah.
that might happen 5 minutes from now, which are irrelevant.
Yeah.
What time is it now? Where are you? Here. Always. That's always the answer. It'll always be the answer, but our mind and brain go elsewhere, right? And so, again, this is really high level stuff, but one things we always control as an individual is our focus. And
Hmm.
that's really hard for someone to do. It's easy to say.
Yeah.
So you said you can control your focus. So are you focused on what the coach is saying to you, or are you focusing on what you're doing? And we let our focus get pulled by everyone else
Yeah.
always. And listen, we do that as adults. That's a human problem that very few have mastered. And so all this stuff is coming at us. And can you take it in without without having it grab you? And can you
Yeah.
process what's needed and what isn't for without adding, like you said, your own story to it and magnifying with emotions how you felt about the information? That's
Hmm.
dangerous. See, like if you just give me a coaching point and I throw in how I feel about that,
Yeah.
then that takes my focus to feeling bad.
Yeah.
And now my next action is going to be based on me not feeling bad about information. Information is just information. And this is really hard to talk to a teenager about. But can you just take what I said and realize, is it relevant? Do I understand it? Can I use it?
Hmm.
And if you're letting it make you feel worse or better, now you've outsourced, yourself to someone else's words and they can completely control you. And that's really dangerous. So focus
Yeah.
is, if you can control your focus, you can control everything because
Yeah.
all this noise is coming at all of us. I focused on this and you focused on that. We feel very different and we do different things. It was all the same information. So
Yeah.
again, what do you want? What's pertinent? What's relevant? What's helpful? If you can learn to take that and keep your action or your energy focused on the next action instead of how I felt about something 5 minutes from now, how I'm worried about something 10 minutes from now, you can maximize your effectiveness. It's not easy
Hmm.
though. I mean,
No.
it takes a lifetime, but you got to work on something.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, we work on teaching youth athletes that the mind and the body are in a loop and they're so intertwined so that if, a challenge comes, your coach says something you don't like, and then all of a sudden there's a thought, and we can't control our first thought, but we can control our second one. So what's a different thing that you can tell yourself? Because then emotions come, and then your body reacts to those emotions, and then like it's just this big loop, right? And it is hard to teach youth this. However, we can present them with the information, and hopefully they absorb some of it. And being able to do that focus and focus on where you are in that moment. We always try and bring youth back to like the present moment too. If
Hmm.
they start to find themselves wandering, we call it the neutralizer. And it's like, what are five things you see, four things you hear, three things that you physically feel, your helmet on your head, like whatever that is, right? Bringing them
Yeah.
into that moment and then finishing it off with one like deliberate breath, because then you're not in the future worrying or in the past, thinking, oh, I suck and all that. You're back to, oh, right here.
Yeah.
Now
And
what?
it's interesting. You say it's hard with youth, but if we don't teach it to our youth, it gets harder as an adult because we get
Yes,
ingrained. When I used to
100%.
teach a long time ago, we came up with this whole framework of event happens, and most of the population lives by the three R's. Something happens, you react. So you're not thinking,
Hmm.
you just react. Then you reflect later. Then you regret. I'll be better next time. I won't do it again. Yes, you will, because it wasn't conscious what you did. You just reacted. You let emotions lead your actions. Then you thought about it tomorrow and you apologize, saying that's out of character for me. Well, it's exactly who you are because you didn't, it's what you did instinctually. And we try to teach the three P's. So the same thing happens to you. You pause. Can
Hmm.
you learn to pause before a reaction? A reaction might just be internally,
Yeah.
like you just pause for a second. And then we process. And what are you processing? What actually happened? Not how you feel about it or what you wished
Hmm.
happened. Just get objective with it. What happened? Not the emotions to it, just what. What happened? What matters most? What's the best thing I can do next to move me closer to what matters most? And the last P is proceed. Proceed's a conscious action. I'm
Hmm.
deciding this. Doesn't mean it's right, but you can audit later and change it because you chose that. And
Yeah.
whether that pause is 5 seconds, 2 days to think before you press send on the email,
Yeah.
you are now consciously living your life instead of reacting your way through life. And it's the easiest way to do that is to challenge each other to help each other on that. So you have your
Hmm.
your words or whatever about someone's about to lose it afterwards. Say whatever you say, and they remind yourself, you're right. That happened.
Hmm.
That's irrelevant. This is where I want to go. That wasn't going to help this. This is what I need to do. And you get better at it and you start catching yourself and you realize you are in control of every action you take. And
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing I teach our kids. When you're six, or the kids I coach now, you're 16 now. Sorry, you are 100% responsible for everything that comes out of your mouth. Everything.
Yeah.
Nobody can make you say anything. They can agitate you, they can anger you, but you are now choosing your actions and your words, and nobody can make you do anything. And now you're responsible. So to take responsibility is to think for 1 second before you open your mouth. Is this what you really want to do to move closer to being who you want? And that's a ton
Hmm.
of responsibility. But you're right. Like once they get that, you can navigate your life the way you want to, not the way other people are trying to make you or you're in control. And I think there's no greater win than that agency that you can win over yourself.
Yeah, it's empowering when we are continually kind of blaming others or being the victim or not taking responsibility. It's just going, hey, do you want my control? Hey, do you want my power? Do
You
you
become
want
a
my power?
puppet. Yeah, they let everyone
That's,
else control you, and it's
yeah.
sad. And we all do it. We
Yeah.
still do it as adults, right? Someone cuts us off in traffic, we yell and scream and cuss them, and your kids see that.
Hmm.
So that person can own you. They
Yeah.
control your emotions, really. Like that happened. But
Yeah.
what I did now was because they made me. That your kids see that.
Yeah.
And so it's very easy to justify every action because of out there. It's like,
Yeah.
but you did it though. That's what they did.
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything. And that's a hard pill to swallow. But I think if you get to that place, you have, like you said, you have that belief like I am in control of what I do in life. I'm not control what happens. Like I said at the get-go, I can't control playing 13 years in pro football. I can
Yeah.
control everything I did in terms of who I spent time with, what I ate, what I trained, what I rested. I can't control the outcome, but I can
Hmm.
control everything that I do. And I think our end goal with ourselves or anyone else we're helping, how can we maximize the probabilities? How can we tilt the scales a little bit more in our favor? and then luck and timing. But if you do everything you can do to give yourself the best opportunity, there's nothing else we can do. And you've upped the odds a little bit, and that's pretty good.
Hmm. Yeah, and that leads to a really good point too around how so many youth tie, well, not even just youth, like everybody, we tie our worth into the outcome or the way that we're performing or,
Mhm.
all of that. However, if we continue to do that or start doing that as a youth, that's just leading us down a road of feeling not valued for who we are. So, how did you navigate or how do you navigate that?
Well, it's a message I speak to our team a lot about, and it's a phrase I use a lot. What you do is not who you are.
Hmm.
How you do it is.
Yeah.
And so I'm not and never have been a football player. It might have been the outlet I did, but what I am is someone that brought a lot of energy, enthusiasm, positive, hard work, So if what you are is someone that won the race or won the award, well, that doesn't last. And what happens when you don't win the race? Now your whole identity is wrapped around some outcome that is so many variables. But
Yeah.
if who you see yourself is, the character traits that you brought to that equation, that can never be taken from you. And it transfers. So I saw it with sports. I'm sure you've seen it with a lot of athletes. They hit depressions when they're done
Yeah.
because I'm no longer a football player. You never were. That's just what you did. Okay. That's just something you did. Who you are is what you brought to that equation every day. And
Hmm.
that should be the exact same as what you're still doing. And you bring it to your relationships, your friends, your next business, or whatever. And nobody can take that from you.
Hmm.
The second you place it on outcome, like I need to win or I'm a loser, or I'm an all-star now. Well, if that's who you are the year you're not, then what are you? And
Hmm.
and no different than business owners. Like they become their brand and then they sell their business for a gazillion dollars and they hit the depression because they were their business. That's dangerous. That's very dangerous tying your worth into an actual thing, to an actual doing.
Yeah.
I loved playing football, but I never saw myself as a football player. It's just what I did.
Okay.
And I think that's a message for our youth. Don't get tied into that because all things end and nothing's sustainable. And you're right, it's way too fragile to
Yeah.
value yourself due to that, which is so many variables you can't control, and none of those things ever last forever. But
Yeah.
you have to keep going on without missing a beat.
Yeah. It's the what human being, not the human doing.
That's right. That's right. And it's a very hard message, but as
Yeah.
parents, what are we helping them be proud of? And it's
Yeah.
because they won the game that you celebrate that, but that's not what you should be proud of. It's how you played,
Yeah.
and you can always control that, and you can live like that tomorrow when there's no game to be played too, and we'll keep celebrating that. And kids realize, just like adults, what gets rewarded.
Hmm.
And if we're rewarding winning and not rewarding losing, they know that's all that matters. That's why they lie, they cheat, they steal, eventually they keep winning because they have
Yeah.
to be validated. And at a
Yeah.
young age, we'll celebrate the win, but this is what matters. They start believing if you're consistent with that messaging. And then they're
Yeah.
free to perform better because the outcome, yeah, you win some, you lose some. You hope to win. That's what we're there to do, but it's not going to change how I feel about myself. But if we
Hmm.
go the other way, the stress is incredible. And I don't even know if you enjoy competing if you're so terrified of losing.
Yes.
How is there any enjoyment in that?
Yeah. No, it's true. It is so true. And I see kids all the time gearing up for their competition day and we're in sessions and they're just petrified and it's like time out. Like, how is this fun? Do you
That's
perform when you're not having fun, or do you perform the best when you're just like no cares in the world, just trusting your training and having fun doing the sport that you love? Well,
but
yeah.
we've done that as
Okay.
adults. We've done that.
Yeah.
We have to undo that, and it's
Yeah.
hard to do because we've made winners and winning so
Yeah.
and I said years ago, like we got to define what winning means, and if we mean beating every other team and that's all it is, that's it's pretty weak.
Hmm.
It's a pretty shallow definition of what a winner is.
Yeah. I agree.
Anyways, and
It,
you're reserving it for only a few, and I don't know. I don't like where that's heading in sports
yeah.
and in the world too.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Is there a game that you can remember playing where you lost, but you were able to still, like, you walked off the field with your head held high and you
Oh,
felt
sure.
really
Yeah,
good?
yeah.
Yeah?
A lot. And it took me time. Look,
Okay.
my first years playing pro early, I was so scared because you see people getting cut every day and you think losing
Right.
equals losing your job. And
Yeah.
I think it took me getting older to appreciate the joy of the joy of being able to play and bring my best was what I was happy with. And and I think there is also, I mean, I'm not going to speak to a specific. I've had many, and there was other ones where we won, and I was disappointed in my performance. And for the team, I'm
Mm-hmm.
happy, but I'm like, you know, I didn't
Yeah.
really bring my best today, and we
Yeah.
won, and you know that, and you're not going to beat yourself up, but you
Yeah.
try to be honest about yourself, and are you bringing your best? And if you bring your best, that's what matters. And we won, we didn't lose. That's a nice on top of it, and it's great, and we celebrate and we cheer. And of course, we're upset when we lose, but the deeper thing is I brought my best today. Like that was as good as I could do. That's
Yeah.
okay, right? And or I could have done better. Okay, well then that's what tomorrow's are for. Let's go out and get better.
Yeah.
And yeah, it took me a long time. I had coaches that tried their best, but the stress of pro sports is different than amateur sports.
Yeah.
You got to feed your family, and when you lose, someone's gonna lose your job. So it's really hard to remove that reality from it, but you
Yeah.
still have to learn to enjoy. I get Coach Dan was great at this. He would tell us all the time, guys, we get to play football today. And I always remembered that. And he'd use this
Yeah.
other line right after that. Like it might be a sideways rainstorm. We don't want to go out to practice because it's just a mess. And then
Yeah.
he'd follow it up with this, how lucky are we?
Yeah.
And I never forgot that. We just lost the game. He'd go, but I get to play football. How lucky am I?
Yeah.
Like, look at what I get to still do what I like to, what I love to do.
Yeah.
So we lost. Like, am I going to mourn the fact that I'm yet to do what I love to do because it's very fickle. It'll end very soon.
Yeah.
Let's not waste the opportunity to remind ourselves, I am doing what I love. How lucky am I? How lucky am I? And it gives you that perspective all the time,
Yeah.
right? Like, and you got to remind the kids, like, you know, we haven't lost in 3 weeks. We get to play football.
Yeah.
We're going to get better. How lucky are we? Like, and that's why it comes back to the question I said at the very beginning. What do you want to do? And if this is what
Mm-hmm.
you want to do, you get to do what you want to do. That makes you
Mm-hmm.
extremely rare in this world. Extremely rare to say, this is what I want to do, and you actually are doing it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not fun that we lost today, but how lucky are we?
Yeah. Oh, that's powerful. That's amazing. Okay, this hour is blown by
Yeah.
already. Holy. Before we close, I just want to ask, like, is there anything that you feel like we should talk about that we haven't?
Look, we
I
can talk
mean,
for days, but
yes.
I think the biggest thing that my messaging to youth is um, have the courage to really think through what you want to do and what you want to become,
Hmm.
and drop the fears that that might change because it probably will. But make a decision going, this is what I want to become and do. And you don't have to know what you want to do for the rest of your life because nobody knows. The world's changing every year, it seems like, or every day now. But for
Yeah.
right now, what do you want to do so your actions can have reason and purpose? And if you learn that skill, you can change your want anytime you want, but you understand now, I am always in charge of what I'm doing and what I'm saying and what I'm acting. Why am I doing these things? Because I want to go this way. And have the courage to say, this is what I want to do. Don't let the world pull and push you through your life. That's a
Hmm.
recipe for unhappiness and constant chasing. You want to navigate yourself on your terms.
Yeah, powerful. Angus, thank you so much. Thank you for
Yeah.
taking this hour with us. I look forward to sharing the stage with you on March 5th. Everybody who's listening, Angus Reid is going to be there, Sean Millington, myself, and it's for youth in the Fraser Valley who are athletes and their parents to come out and just gain some awareness and tools and really to look around you and see the community of people who are there for the same reason.
It's going to be powerful to have. Listen, I think what we spoke about this hour, that many people physically together realizing nobody's alone.
Yeah,
It takes a village, a community, and here we are. We all want what's best for ourselves, which is let's support each other in becoming all we can.
yeah, 100%. So exciting. Okay, everybody, until next
Awesome.
time, train your mind, build your grit, and forge your legacy.